Hello friends, welcome to my channel Study Zone Never Stop Learning. Today I am going to teach you class 10 chapter Heredity and Evolution. So let's start. Heredity, sexual reproduction, the mode of reproduction that involves two individuals, one male and one female. They produce sex cells or gametes which fuse to form a new organism. Genes. जीन इज द फंक्शनल यूनिट ऑफ हेरिडिटी. आपसे एक क्वेश्चन पूछा जा सकता है कि फंक्शनल यूनिट ऑफ हेरिडिटी क्या है, तो वो जीन्स होता है. एवरी जीन कंट्रोल्स वन और सेवरल पर्टिकुलर कैरेक्टरिस्टिक फीचर इन लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म. हर एक जीन कंट्रोल करता है वन या फिर सेवरल पर्टिकुलर कैरेक्टरिस्टिक फीचर्स एक लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म के. हेरिडिटी, the process by which the features of an organisms are passed on from one generation to another is called heredity. ऐसा process जिससे features एक organism से दूसरे organism दूसरे generation में pass होते हैं उसे heredity कहते हैं. The process is done by genes which define the characters in the organism. Mendel's work. John Mendel, known as father of genetics, was an Austrian monk who worked on pea plants to understand the concept of heredity. ग्रॉगर जॉन मेंडल थे जो फादर ऑफ जेनेटिक्स कहलाते थे. वो एक ऑस्ट्रियन मॉन्क थे जिन्होंने वर्क किया था पी प्लांट्स पे ताकि वो अंडरस्टैंड कर सकें कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ हेरिडिटी. हिज वर्क लेड द फाउंडेशन ऑफ मॉडर्न जेनेटिक्स. उनका जो ये वर्क था वो आज के फाउंडेशन ऑफ मॉडर्न जेनेटिक्स पे था. He made three basic laws of inheritance: the law of dominance, the law of segregation and the law of independent assortment. उन्होंने 3 लॉ करे थे बेसिक लॉ ऑफ इनहेरिटेंस जो थे लॉ ऑफ डोमिनेंस थे, लॉ ऑफ सेग्रीगेशन एंड द लॉ ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंट असॉर्टमेंट. Dominant traits, the traits that express themselves in an organism in every possible combination and can be seen are called dominant traits. In Mendel's experiment, we see that tall trait in pea plants tend to express more than the short trait. Therefore, the tall trait of the plant is said to be the dominant over the short trait. Tall trait को dominant कहा जाता है as compared to short trait. Recessive traits, a trait which is not expressed in the presence of a dominant allele is known as recessive. एक ऐसा trait जो express नहीं होता है presence of dominant allele में उसे recessive कहते हैं. So recessive character trait is present in an organism but cannot be seen if a dominant allele exists. तो dominant जो recessive character होता है या trait होता है वो present एक organism में होता है लेकिन देखा नहीं जा सकता अगर उसमें एक डोमिनेंट एली हो. मोनोहाइब्रिड क्रॉस, when only one character is considered while crossing two organisms, then such a cross is known as monohybrid cross. The ratio of characters arising out of this cross at F2 generation is called monohybrid ratio. Example, if tall plant TT is crossed with the dwarf plant TT, we get 3 tall is to 1 short plant at the end of the F2 generation. So 3 is to 1 is monohybrid ratio. Monohybrid ratio 3 is to 1 होता है F2 generation में. Here the height of the plant is considered at a time. Dihybrid cross, when two characters are considered while crossing two organisms, then such a cross is known as dihybrid. जब दो कैरेक्टर कंसिडर किए जाते हैं टू ऑर्गेनिजम्स को क्रॉस करने के लिए तो ऐसा क्रॉस डाइहाइब्रिड क्रॉस कहलाता है. और द रेशियो ऑफ कैरेक्टर्स अराइजिंग आउट ऑफ दिस क्रॉस एट F2 जनरेशन इज कॉल्ड डाइहाइब्रिड रेशियो. एग्जाम्पल, इफ अ प्लांट विद राउंड एंड ग्रीन पी इज crossed with the plant with wrinkled and yellow pea, the first generation plants would all have round and green pea. On crossing the same for an F2 generation, we would observe 4 combinations of characters in the ratio of 9:3:3:1. Thus 9:3:3:1 is the dihybrid ratio. डाइहाइब्रिड रेशियो हमारा होता है 9:3:3:1 और मोनोहाइब्रिड हमारा रेशियो होता है 3:1। फिर नेक्स्ट हमारा आता है इनहेरिटेंस। इन बायोलॉजी इनहेरिटेंस pertains to the transfer of traits from one generation to another। बायोलॉजी में इनहेरिटेंस का मतलब होता है ट्रांसफर ऑफ ट्रेट्स फ्रॉम वन जनरेशन टू अनदर। Laws of Mendel। Law of dominance says that a gene has two contrasting alleles and one always expresses itself in the organism. It is called the dominant gene and it expresses in any possible combination. Law of segregation says that traits get segregated completely during the formation of gametes without any mixing of alleles. Law of independent assortment says that the traits can segregate independently of different characters during gamete formation. Sex determination, the process of determining the gender of an individual based on the composition of the genetic material, is called gender determination. In different animals, gender of an embryo is determined by different factors. In humans, gender determination happens on the basis of the presence or absence of Y chromosome. X and X is female and X and Y is male, and ovum always contains X chromosome, and ovum upon fusion with Y containing sperm gives rise to a male child, and upon fusion with X containing sperm gives rise to a girl child. Traits. Traits are characteristic features of an organism manifested in a physical form that is visible or in a physiological aspect of the organism. Acquired characters. The traits that are acquired by an organism over the period of its lifetime are termed as the acquired character. These characters may or may not get transferred to the next generation. एक्वायर्ड करेक्शन या तो हो सकते हैं या फिर नहीं ट्रांसफ़र हो सकते हैं नेक्स्ट जनरेशन में. इनहेरिटेड कैरेक्टर्स, द ट्रेट्स दैट आर इनहेरिटेड फ्रॉम द पेरेंट्स आर कॉल्ड इनहेरिटेड कैरेक्टर्स. ऐसे कैरेक्टर्स जो हमारे पेरेंट्स से मिलते हैं उन्हें इनहेरिटेड कैरेक्टर्स कहते हैं. These traits always get transferred to the next generation, but depending on the dominance or recessiveness, it may or may not express. Examples are height, skin color, and eye color. Variation, genetic variations. The differences in the DNA sequences among every organism leading to the diverse gene pool are called genetic variation. ऐसे differences DNA sequence में among each every organism वो lead करता है diverse gene pool में, वो कहलाते हैं genetic variations. These differences lead to different varied physical characters or biochemical pathways. Natural selection, it is the phenomenon by which a favorable trait in a population of a species is selected. Changing natural conditions exert equal pressure on all the existing species. The species, organisms which are better adapted to the changing conditions survive and reproduce, that is selected by nature, and species, organisms which cannot adapt, perish, that is rejected by nature. Speciation, genetic drift. Natural selection can play an important role in deciding the traits that survive in a population. However, random fluctuations in gene variants are seen on many occasions. This phenomenon is known as genetic drift. Thus, genetic drift is a change in the frequency of an exciting allele in a small population. Genetic drift may cause a gene variant to disappear from the population and thus reduce genetic variation. Speciation ये एक ऐसा प्रोसेस है फॉर्मेशन ऑफ न्यू स्पीशीज़ का फ्रॉम द एग्जिस्टिंग वंस ड्यू टू सेवरल एवोल्यूशनरी फोर्सेस, जैसे कि जेनेटिक ड्रिफ्ट, आइसोलेशन ऑफ पॉपुलेशंस और या फिर नेचुरल सिलेक्शन एक्सेट्रा. Speciation leads to diversity in the ecosystem and diversity lead to evolution. जीन फ्लो इज द ट्रांसफर ऑफ जीन्स फ्रॉम वन पॉपुलेशन टू द नेक्स्ट। जीन फ्लो एक ट्रांसफर है ऑफ जीन्स फ्रॉम वन पॉपुलेशन टू द नेक्स्ट। पॉपुलेशन is a community or a group of animals, plants, or any living organism that can reproduce with each other and have fertile, viable offsprings. Charles Darwin, also called father of evolution. चार्ल्स डार्विन को फादर ऑफ एवोल्यूशन भी कहा जाता है। वो एक इंग्लिश नेचुरलिस्ट एंड बायोलॉजिस्ट थे। 5 years expedition in a ship called HMS Beagle to Galapagos Island helped him write his theory of evolution. In 1859 he published a book called Origin of Species. 1859 में उन्होंने एक बुक लिखी थी, पब्लिश की थी, इसका नाम था Origin of Species, in which he put the theory of evolution in detail, जिसमें उन्होंने अपनी theory of evolution को पूरी डिटेल में बताया था। अगर आपको मेरी वीडियो हेरिडिटी एंड एवोल्यूशन पे पसंद आई हो तो इसे लाइक, सब्सक्राइब और शेयर करना ना भूलें, और अगर आपको इसमें कोई डाउट हो तो कमेंट बॉक्स में डाल दें। थैंक यू।